What is going on today, YouTube? Hope you guys are doing fantastic. Today's video, we're looking at the balance patch. It's not a massive patch, but it does touch on some of those higher value items and stuff like that. So let's take a look at it. This is bonus update notes of 11.3. 11.3 brought us a lot of god and item changes. Not really meta changes, though, except maybe Bobble, if you want to consider that a meta change. Brooch is getting decreased from 12% to 10%. The problem with Brooch, and I hate saying it, but genetics was right.
I don't make mistakes. I'm not just like the rest of you. I'm stronger. I'm smarter. I'm better. I am better.
Is that it's that top end poke that's just too difficult to deal with that makes it a problem. Yes, it's brought down from 12 to 10%, so it's still going to be really good at like when you're at 100% health, and it's going to be a lot worse when you're at like 80% health. But the problem is if you poke everybody on the enemy team down to 80% health, instantly you've just taken 100% health off of the enemy team and just kind of gives you that advantage. It's also just very easy to proc, and it still does damage even when they are at 80, 60% and stuff like that. So Brooch is still going to be very good on AMC, Marty, Wukong, gods like that. It's just the damage is going to be brought back a little bit everywhere, but I don't think it changes anything with the purchase rate of Bluestone. This is one that is rather large. Charon is seeing 3 different nerfs to every single one of his base abilities, and I thought Charon was in a fine spot. I think people forget about how he's kind of like Aphrodite in that he's really strong in 2v2s and 3v3s. Well, Aphro's mostly just 2v2s, but he's really strong, this character, in 2v2s, 3v3s. This is just making him weaker in 2v2s and 3v3s, which a lot of just players, just random outbursts of fights just happen. So it feels like he's stronger than he is. And then he just gets really far ahead and just wins fights late game because he's level 20 and he does like a solid amount of damage for a support. But now he is a good amount worse in those fights because now Spectral Surge is doing a lot less damage as a tank and a lot less damage as a DPSer. Damnation is doing a lot less damage as a tank and a DPSer. And then Swift Voyage is also doing a good amount damage less as a tank because this is the last ability you're leveling. So now this is now just 15 damage the entire game. So instead of it hitting for, we'll say 60, maybe 55, it's going to be doing probably 40. And that is until level 15 or 16 when you get that next point in tier 3. So this is a pretty large nerf for Charon. This might feel pretty bad. Next up, Kuzenbo. Shell Spikes shifted. It's shifted because it's better at level 1 now. This makes it just a lot worse to level. This used to be an ability you leveled early because you wanted this 1.3 seconds back. It allowed you to just spam your ones. Now, I don't even think you're going to level it. It doesn't really make a ton of sense to level. It's more like a late game thing now. You'll probably be putting points into your 1 and your 4, or your 1 and your 3 now. This is a pretty big nerf for Kuzenbo, but it's not killing the character. The character is just going to be very strong because he's got solid base numbers with a lot of cooldown reduction, and then he also has damage returned to you in his 2. So he just has kind of everything he wants, and then he also gets mitigations. This character actually just has so much stuff, and he is very, very strong. I'm surprised it's taking so long for this character to be considered like a top-tier character. Odin, Gungnir's Might. Yes. Okay, so the pulse and Gungnir damage used to do 300 and 165, or sorry, it's 330 here and then 300 on the final throw. That used to be the exact same when it was 3 ticks. The problem is you needed to sit there for 3 ticks as they traded into you to get that full damage. Otherwise, you wouldn't get it. Now, you get the same amount of damage nearly twice as fast. That's the issue. There should have been a nerf implemented instantly with Odin. This was a lot. I still even think this is too high. This is still 310 on the pulse and then 275 on the actual spear throw. So, I mean, it's still about 600 damage. And this is probably the first ability you're maxing in most games now. So, yeah, it's still going to be a problem. He's still going to be a problem character. Martichoras, Death from Above, gets an extra 10 seconds. Does it do anything? Not really. Is he still going to be good? Yes. Does this hurt him in the spot that it should hurt him? No, not really. I don't think this really does anything for the character. This one, though, a little bit more impactful. Is it still that much? No, not really. This is still not changing the character. He's still going to be an incredible poke character. He's still going to be very hard to chase down with his hives. Can't really trade poke with him because of the HP 5 from hives also. AMC still kind of has the exact same strengths. Those strengths are just very, very slightly less on the offensive side, but just as good on the defensive side. And looking at some big nerfs, I actually think Cuckoo's nerfs are pretty big for him because in the early game, he wanted to just kind of run around and farm everything, and Whirlwind and Spirit of the Nine Winds kind of what helps him do that. He'll be the same character just about late game. Yes, 2 seconds on his 3 can be a little bit. 10 seconds on the ult can be a little bit. But it's really not that game-changing. It's mostly in just how well he's going to be farming. Once you get 3 points, you used to just put 3 points into this. Now you kind of want to put all 5 points into this just to get this cooldown back down to 12 seconds. Because you want to be able to farm quickly with this. And if you don't have points into it to farm, it's going to be a little tough. So I do think this is a pretty good nerf for Kukulkan. That with Book may finally bring him in line. Still a Mirrored Abuser. Book still gives him a ton of power, more than anyone else. So we'll see, but I do think this is a nice little start. Next up, Thanatos. Movement speed on Scent of Death and the bonus movement speed. Increase movement speed and bonus movement speed from 10. It's weird that it says like movement speed and then bonus movement speed because you get movement speed from popping it and then you get bonus movement speed when they're low. I think it doubles. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. First time I read this, I read it as, I tried to remember it back what the bonus movement speed is, and I think it's just doubles. And so if I'm correct, 10 to 20% is pretty big, but this 30 to 60 is really large. This 24 to 48 isn't really anything. So I don't think Scent to Death really does too much. However, Hovering Death nerf is a lot harder on Thanatos because this is a Jotun's first character. You want those cooldowns because a lot of your damage comes from those cooldowns, getting them back up, using them again, getting a kill, getting the resets. Now it's 110 seconds on that first Hovering Death. So if you use it before getting your Jotuns, it's almost 2 minutes till it's back up. If you can at least get Jotuns first, it cuts it down to 80 seconds, which is a lot better. But it just makes that Jotun spike that much more important. And then lastly, Baki. Yeah, this character was horrible on this current patch. And now he gets nerfed again. And now he is probably the worst character that you can play in solo lane. That is a tank. He doesn't do any damage now. He isn't a threat in the laning phase. He isn't a threat in the late game. He clears okay. Still clears okay, but that's literally all he does. Think of him as Izanami with no threat late game because at least Izanami's an ADC. That's what Baki is. 7 damage off of his autos. Yes, he gets a little bit more per level, but 7 in the early game. So now if you're actually just trading autos into him, you're easily winning. Rough Waters, extra 2 seconds added. So now his trading pattern takes a lot longer. And then Twisting Dive is just 60 damage on his dash at level 1, which is horrendous. This character is just not a threat anymore. He is so bad. Bad players have to learn to play against these characters. Otherwise, Baki's never going to get played. Iz is never going to get played. There's just so many characters that are just omega nerfed because bad players don't know how to play against them. They just try to like sit in minions and fight. That's the patch notes. Not a great patch notes, but not horrible either. Give it like a C. It's whatever. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Let me know what you guys think about the patch notes. Anything that stuck out to you or doesn't, maybe you just don't like. Drop it down in the comments below. Hope you guys enjoyed. See you guys. Peace.